Jeremy, do you know who Adam is?
No.
He essentially invented podcasting, kind of.
Kind of.
I don't know.
Dave Weiner and I invented it together.
I know. I don't actually know the background. I've only heard Rogan call you the Podfather.
Yes.
And thank you for it. And
I thank him because he recertified me. Jeremy over here didn't know who the fuck I was.
Yeah.
He didn't even watch Rogan. Still doesn't know who I am.
Fuck's sake, Jeremy. No, I've
Simmons.
What?
Simmons, the sports podcaster. They call him the Podfather.
no.
Yeah. No, I've heard all kinds of people saying the pod. Ricky Gervais actually tried to steal that.
This
had a
is-
series,
this is-
didn't he?
This is the This is the actual Podfather. So I've
By
heard
the
it.
way, Rick, that's very flattering when Ricky Gervais like I'm gonna nick this from Adam Curry. I'm like, okay, Ricky Gervais, you're my hero. Go for it.
Back off, Ricky. No, but so I've heard him call you that, but I actually don't know the origination story.
I'll tell you.
We want to hear it.
Okay. In 2000, I left. Went back from the United States. I taken my company public, had a little bit of cash, moved my family back. My wife is Dutch, and she wanted to be close to her family. And at the time in the Netherlands, we had cable modems, which was fantastic because the Netherlands has a lot of cabling, not a lot of antennas and stupid wires. And now you could keep your computer on. There was no more dial-up. Jeremy, do you remember dial-up?
Yeah, AOL.
Fucker. Exactly. So you didn't have to do that anymore. You could leave your computer on, but the speed was shit.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, what if there was no experience in multimedia? You'd click something, it would download for 10 minutes, and then would have to open up a player and and for a 3-minute video, if that. So what if you had a little thing, a little program running on your computer that had to go get something that you wanted, and it did that behind the scenes without telling you, downloaded it, and then said, oh, there's something new. You wouldn't know that there was a 10-minute wait because you weren't notified, so that time is not, you didn't lose any time in your mind. You weren't waiting for anything. And Dave Weiner at the time was doing blogs. He really created web blogs, and he created the RSS standard, which allowed you to subscribe to a blog post.
Yep.
And so I flew to New York and said, I want to explain what I want. I think we can make a cool multimedia experience if you can give me like the equivalent of an attachment on an email. Now, he probably thought, no, I know he thought I was some Hollywood douchebag guy. And I came back the next day and tried again. And I had now programmed it in one of his programming languages. And he said, okay, I understand it. I'll do it. But only if you promise me you'll never, ever use my software again. Because that was horrible what you did there. I said, good. I'm glad I don't have to do that. So that was 2000. And we were using this back and forth. Really, we were the only two guys using it. So he'd upload a 100 megabyte video. And in the morning, I'd go in. It was already on my computer, click play. I had an experience. Then I saw the iPod.
Boom.
Boom. I was like, that's a radio. That's not a jukebox. That's not a digital Walkman. That's a radio. It looks just like the one my grandmother gave me when I was 7, a little Sony AM transistor radio with a 9-volt battery. And I hacked together as AppleScript, because I'm not a programmer, and had some help from other people, thank goodness. And so now I could upload with a blog post a show, it wasn't called a podcast, and it would download to my computer, and then you still had to sync your iPod with your computer. Then it would sync it up, put it into a playlist, and there it was, the first podcast in a playlist. And right away, I started doing a show called The Daily Source Code, which was intended for the one thing I never thought I'd have to do is I had to find people to build radios because you needed the app. There were no apps. And so this Daily Source Code was about the development of the apps. And we had the iPodder Lemon, the XPodder guys, and we're all kind of building these apps for Mac OS, and for Windows. There was no smartphones either. And then it just went further until 2005 or 6, and Steve Jobs called me and said, can I have a chat? I was like,
Just Steve Jobs.
yes.
Yeah.
Nah, maybe Thursday. And I sat with him for an hour, and really, it was great. I mean, I could talk about that forever, but his pitch was, I want to put podcasting in iTunes. Are you okay with that? I said, yeah. I'll give you the directory. Now, so that's really when podcasting broke open wide. And the mistake I made, or like, how could I know at the time, was I made Apple the default on-ramp for podcasting. And that was fine. They've been great stewards of podcasting. They've done nothing to enhance it, which again is fine because they make no money on it. But then they started fucking around with the API that everybody was using. And they were just changing things, and they were taking shows off and deplatforming. And that's when I called my other friend, Dave Jones, who I'd been working with for 10 years, and we've created 1 million products that no one ever used, said, I think we have something to do here. We need to take back the index and create podcastindex.org. We're calling it Podcasting 2.0 because we're going to add features now. So the first thing we did is we now have pretty much every podcast that's actually a podcast. Doesn't have to be active, but not, one show, 2 minutes of someone saying poop. And believe me, there's a lot of those.
Are we there?
We are?
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, of course you are. And we have over 4.5 million now.
Wow.
And so now all these app developers didn't have to rely on Apple. They could turn around. We offer the API for free. We now have 15 or 16 apps, in some more established, but even Overcast uses us to some degree. We have working on 20 features, chapters, transcripts, geolocation, seasons, all the stuff. We just unleashed this big cork of creativity. It's all open source, open project. Set up a Mastodon server so people can communicate. That's been the best. Of course, we have GitHub and stuff where people get a little more technical. And we added, because I'd been messing around during lockdown with the full node Raspberry Blitz. I'm like, oh, this Lightning thing. And then I discovered KeySend. I'm like, holy shit, I can broadcast money. And you'll receive it whether you have your radio on or not, your money radio. That's how I look at it. That's how I look at everything. I said, well, then we can do true value for value, which I've been doing with Dvorak for 15 years. We don't ask people to subscribe to anything. We say, send me whatever you think the show was worth. Say, you just sat here for an hour, or you listened to us for an hour and a half. You could have gone to the movies, taken a date, had some popcorn, a Coke. Might have been $50. Were we worth $50? Time preference. This is why it all comes back to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It all comes back to that. So now we have the same method where people are just, literally people say, this is the most fun I've had parting with my money. So a couple things. They're seeing that it's money. They have to make choices. They have to make choices now. Do I spend this? Do I give this money to my favorite podcaster, knowing that it could well be worth twice as much in 3 years from now? What is that? So all your time preference stuff comes into play. And people really value what they're sending. It's not just willy-nilly. Second time the Friday to use that. And then that people go so far to the value, they disassociate from the underlying asset. So now it's a row of ducks, 2,222 sats. We have a Rush boost, 2,112, if you know anything about Rush. You name it, every type of, the 420, all these different types of things, including this per minute payment, which of course you utilize on your podcast as well. Have you seen the helipad bit though? You probably don't have that yet.
No.
Do you know about the boostergrams? No. Yeah, see, we need communicate. So we have developed now in the apps, if you look at any 2.0 app, newpodcastapps.com, you can set your streaming amount per minute, and then there's a boost button. So you can just send 1,000 sats, or you hold it down and you can put in a message, a short, kind of like a...
Oh, is this a bit like on YouTube where people...
Super chat.
Yeah,
exactly.
Super chat, yeah.
Except, oh man, there's so much beautiful shit in here.
Yeah.
So of course, it's going directly from that listener's wallet to the podcaster's wallet. There's no one in between. No one can stop it. No Patreon who's going to deplatform you. And on your side, we now have an app that you can load up. We've made it available for Umbrel and Raspberry Blitz, and we're getting more out there. And it's a whole listing. You can see all of these boostergrams with the amounts, what people are saying. People are now tying that in, literally putting it on their website so people can see. You have leaderboards they're making. And what we built into this is a distributed digital royalty system. So in your show, in your feed, or even for an individual episode, you can determine as many Lightning addresses as you want with the percentage you want going to them.
Okay.
So you could say, I'll take 60%. You'll give these guys each 10. Maybe you give your guests 5. Now people are giving their guests 5% of the split. And so when someone is listening and they're streaming in real time, or if they hit a boost, you're making multiple payments, all to those people individually, uninterruptible, completely transparent. Everybody knows what he's getting.
I like that.
And now people are using that for albums, putting the band members in the splits based upon writer, composer, producer, contributor, or whatever it is. It's this, and this is a true use case of economics at work, which I think is almost unparalleled in Bitcoin world right now, except for point of sale stuff.
Yeah.